taking advantage of the situation now. I will give the microphone and the word to you pretty quickly, so make sure to take your time here. Yes, and let's start. I'm feeling kind of like Dave Letterman a little. He has this Netflix series. My next guest doesn't need an introduction. I will do so anyways. Let's start, ladies first, with our lady in the squad. She's not only FIFA's Women's Coach of the Year, but she also won the World Championship with the US soccer team and now focuses on the youth development. Please give it up and welcome on stage Jill Ellis. Next one, we have someone who had a massive impact on this game, on football. He's been one of the greatest footballers of our times. He personified the concept of total football and exhibited it brilliantly in the Dutch national squad in the 80s and 90s, and is also a very successful international coach. Please give it up for Ruud Gullit. Coming to my left now, taking off the shirt already. It's pretty warm up here, actually. We're keeping it international. He played for Roma, Milan, Juventus before becoming one of the game's most successful coaches, not only nationally but internationally as well. He won several Serie A titles and in La Liga as well. And he's here with us today. Big applause for Fabio Capello, please. And then last, but obviously not least, a previous Laureus Award winner also, as well as the longest-serving manager in the history of Arsenal Football Club's history. I repeated myself right there. He's known for discovering young talent and supporting women's football as well. Well, welcome on stage, Arsene Wenger. And as an easy opening question, I would like to direct the word to you, actually, Jill. Congrats again on the World Championship last year, also your retirement year, but maybe you can elaborate a little on that title, on what that did to not only you as women's soccer, but soccer for women all over the world.
Yeah, for sure. First of all, I'm delighted to be here and obviously honored to sit up with my boy band here. They're pretty impressive. I think certainly last year in France, it was a showcase moment for our sport. Yeah. It was the moment I think we went global in more. I know there was 1.1 billion viewers that watched the Women's Championships last summer in France. For our team, it was obviously it was an amazing tournament. It was a hard-fought tournament. I mean, just the level from 2015 to 2019, the game is evolving so quickly, so rapidly. We've seen the expansion of professional clubs. And I've said this many times, I don't think now a women's international team can be successful on the international stage without a strong domestic league. And I think you're seeing that now in Europe, in Japan. Mexico now has a women's league. And I think that's just a wonderful sign of the growth of our sport. But last summer, we had a platform for our voices, not just to be seen, but also to be heard. And I think it was a remarkable example of women power and expertise in the game of football.
Yeah, thank you. Maybe talking about one of the voices of that World Cup was Lieke Martens too. You have Ruud, you have a really expressive and very important person up there on your side. How did you experience the World
I think
Cup?
that the Women's World Cup was fantastic. Already in the European Championship, what was held in Holland, Holland did extremely well. When I think I was 15, 20 years ago, I was in LA Galaxy, and the girls of the national team, they were training there, and I was watching them, and they were already unbelievable in those days. I think that what stood out, I think for the women's, the American team, still with the rest, is that they are all athletes. You can see that. This is not just because of recreation football. This is really athletes football. And I think that they set the tone for everybody in women's football, that is what you need to do. And I think that Holland is close to it, not close enough yet. And that what you could see that in the game. But it was a good inspiration for the rest of for the youngsters, for the young kids in Holland, to say, hey, look, this is what we want. We want to also play for a crowd of 30,000, 50,000 people. So it was fantastic to watch.
Thank you. And you talked about how the game is changing, not only for the women, obviously, but I feel like for the coaches, things are changing as well. Maybe you can elaborate on how you're experiencing a change in the game for the coaches, Mr. Capello.
Yes, I watched a lot of games on TV. I watched all the European, the World Cup. But I have to have one question for me. I think the goal for the woman is too big. Do you understand me?
I understand.
And also the pitch is too wide. Because why when you play basketball is not tall like the men's? Why when you play volleyball is not so tall the nets like the men? This is my question. Why every time when you shoot to the goal, for the keeper it's really difficult? And when they shoot from long distance always. I think so. Only this question. I want to
you want me to respond? I respectfully disagree. I think, where our sport is, you've got to understand that the men's game has been around for 100 years. We are now seeing, so for example, in Japan, a lot of athletes, the tall athletes there, always went into volleyball. Now we're seeing taller athletes go into to soccer, to football in a country like Japan. I think the purity of the game is the purity of the game, and we all love that. And so to adapt that and change that, I think we've grown up with the game, how we see it, how we love it, and I don't think we feel we need to modify that. In my opinion, we've got 6 foot goalkeepers out there, and we've got 5'8" that are incredibly athletic.
That's interesting, right?
I think, and I also think where we are in our game over time, the level of athleticism will continue, just like it has in the men's side, from way back in the 50s to now. Just think of now the level of athlete, and I also think that will continue to evolve on the women's side.
Very interesting development of the conversation right here. Mr. Wenger, maybe you would like to elaborate on that question right away.
Well, I would say that it's for sure that the athleticism of the girls has improved. I think as well in the last World Cup you could see that the other nations catch up with the States and that the difference was not so big anymore. Mm-hmm. The room for winning was reduced with the other nations. The problem we have now is that to back up the success that has been built at the World Cup, because the structures in the game, everybody's moving to the big cities. In the big cities, you have no pitches, Mm. And to find pitches, structures for the young girls who want to play, all the stadiums are overloaded over the weekends. And I believe it's a new problem that is we face now is to give the girls who have a huge success now, because there's a big appeal, but we do not have needed structures available to develop the game.
It's also the politics. They have to have a hand in hand. In Holland, there is a law now for anything they build new in an area of 2 kilometers. They have to have pitches. They have to have something to do sporty, and so therefore in Holland it's very easy to get with the bike to go to somewhere to do your sports. So it's a part of the politics.
You want to say you're ahead of everybody else.
Even though we are a small country, that is something that we forced to do and encourage the youngsters to get to sports, because nowadays they have much more to do than in our days. Now they have their phones, they have their video games, they have a lot more to do. So you need to encourage them in order to do something close by.
Thank you. We don't have to to stick with this topic. I would like to open up the round now. Maybe we have questions. I think we have the microphone. Thank you so much, Tosh. The classic, the furthest way. Thank you.
Hello, Martin Lipton here. I know most of you over the years. You look better than I do. Arsene, you were the man who coined the term financial doping. We've seen in the last couple of days UEFA punishing Manchester City. Do you feel that decision vindicates your stance? What do you think of what's happened how do you view financial fair play?
That's a vast question because I was always for control of a financial rules and that the clubs work with the natural income they have. The rules have been created. I'm convinced that at the moment there is an evolution to be made in the way the rules are built up at the moment. But they are what they are, and you have to respect them. And people who don't respect them and are caught by trying to get around the rules in more or less legal ways have to be punished. And if it's proven that this has been done on purpose, you cannot let that unpunished. Did I answer your question?
What do you think of the punishment, a 2-year sanction?
Well, I don't know the rule exactly well enough to see what kind of punishment has to be made when rules are not respected. They have not created that. It must be in the rule book, you know. They have not. Somebody has not said, "Let's do that." No, this is certainly the sanction that is planned if the clubs don't respect the rules.
You've always been critical of City because of the players they stole from you at the Bayor.
They bought all my players, yes.
And you, I said, you said financial doping. Do you think?
No, I think this is a deep question. You know, I think sport is basically to win by respecting the rules. That's what it is about. We celebrate all the best in every sport, but we want to know that they respect the rules. If there's no respect for the rules, it's not real sport. So that's what I think is the most important. The rules exist, you have to respect them. Once you go into a competition, it means you sign that you will go into a competition by respecting the rules.
Sorry, Arsene, just one more question on that. Given the players that you lost, do you think that that made Arsenal less competitive? And would you agree with the suggestion that City should be stripped of some of the trophies that they won during that period?
You know, more or less, you know, that the table is always linked with the amount of money that the clubs have, with the turnover of the clubs. That historically has always been exactly the same. You could go through the history. It's the richest clubs who win the championship and I think this trend has become stronger compared to 20, 30 years ago, because there's a huge interest for the best. Everybody wants to watch the best teams. The best teams have become richer, and the difference with the smaller teams has become bigger. So that's why I believe we see what we see. The structure is nearly established, and all of us could predict a little bit what will happen in every league.
But in terms of taking the trophies away from them?
Sorry?
In terms of taking those titles away from City?
Well, I don't know if that is planned in the rules. I don't know well the rules enough.
I know something about Juventus.
Can I ask you then, Fabio? Huh? Can I ask you, would you agree?
No.
He doesn't want to be controversial, you know.
Yes. I have to wait. For now, only money. And it's impossible to play the Champions League the next year. It's a strong decision. Eh?
Thank you. I'm seeing Ruud already put away his microphone. I hope he hasn't given up just yet. We have another question right there.
Thank you very much. Aidan McGee from Sky Sports in London. A question to all of you. Actually, we saw a player for Porto yesterday, Moussa Marega, remove himself from the pitch yesterday in protest at some of the racial abuse he was receiving. Can I ask you all as coaches, and some of you as former players as well, what you made of the incident and how you would have reacted if you were coaching the player, if you were managing the player on the day?
Who would like to?
Well, I'm not specific to the incident, but I know how I feel as a coach. I think, you know, part of my responsibility is to advocate for my players. And if people aren't doing enough in legislation or at the administrative levels to change what's happening, I would support my player doing that, because I feel until players take a hard stand, it's not going to drill down to actually affecting change. So I would say that if my player is under that kind of abuse and stress on a field, I don't think that's healthy. I don't think it's warranted. To me, it's no different than someone throwing a bottle cap or something at somebody. It's the same type of damage I think you can inflict. So I would support my players in stepping off and trying to change at the upper level, my administration, in terms of identifying those specific fans and eliminating them from being able to view any matches, not just their own team.
I blame a little bit also the other players. I think they should protect him, and they should make a stand. Also the opposition to say, look, let's go off. And it should be only the responsible for the play itself, but for everybody there who is involved in that game. And that is a little bit where I'm most disappointed in. Of course, I don't know all the details from it, but it happened also in a game in Holland also, and everybody went off the pitch. And that is what should be. You should not be responsible only lying on that player.
So it should be a coach's decision as well?
Well, I would say I've been abused a lot during my career. And at some stage, you have to decide that you just focus on your game, you know, and on what's going on. Of course, you are against it because it's violent, basically. And but I think it could be an easy tool to be used to stop the game every time. And you have today enough modern tools to identify people who do it and to punish them severely and ban them from going to the games. That is, for me, the first step that has to be made.
You have to stop the game, you stay together, and after you have to find the people that shout. Yes, because some fans go to the pitch for this, go to the stadium for this. They like to do this. And you have to find these fans and decide outside the football, outside the stadium, for the life, not for the 2-3 games. I read someone in Italy for 4 years. No, for the life. It's impossible for these people to go to the stadium.
Yeah, abuse is something different than racial abuse. I get abused all the time, but because they were afraid of me. I didn't mind so much because that gave me strength. So if they shout at you and things like that, it's just try to intimidate you. Even the players try to intimidate. I don't mind that. But if it's sounds that is like monkey sounds or bananas and things like that, that is a little bit over the limit. Then it's more against something else than against me.
Should clubs engage more in taking steps against situations like this? I mean, preventively also?
Say it again?
Should clubs or organizations be more
active
against
I think the coaches here
preventing
said it
it?
already the right thing. You don't want it. You don't want that thing to get.
I mean, in advance, you know, in general, maybe media activity, not just in the act, not just when it's too late.
Yes, of course. We have an educational part to play with the fans. Today, in many countries, you have the fans are organized in groups, and the club has to be part of that educational role, yes.
Yes.
I think also the UEFA, FIFA, you have to take decisions, clear decisions. If happen this, you need to do this to stop the game and to go to the dressing room to finish. This can help the fans that stay close, these crazy people. You can do something to stop this. I think so.
You know, football is a big stage. If you want to make a stand for something, then football is this. You know, is the stand to do it. I think that the people who do it most of the time has nothing to do. They are no fans. You know, so therefore you have to be careful about the fans itself. They educate each other. They don't want that. A lot of fans don't want it, but there are always individuals there that trying to try to do things in order to make a stir, to make a stand. And you get the good thing also was when people came on the pitch in the past, they always showed it on television. Now they don't show it anymore. So it's getting less and less and less. The less attention they get, the better it is also.
You know, in France, we had at the start of the season the problem with homophobic abuse, and they responded very strongly to it, and it stopped everywhere. So there's something to do about it.
Please, we have another question in here. A little bit into the row. Thank you.
About this problem, don't you think that the referee should be much more involved? Because usually in Italy, there's no punishment because the referee, they don't hear very clearly what the racial comment is. So they don't, they don't try it. Maybe, yes, some boo, some, monkey shouts, but the referee says, well, I don't hear it clearly.
The referees have already a lot to do. They are on mics, they are talking to the VAR, they are talking to the linesman, they are talking to everybody, and they do not necessarily have the opportunity to listen clearly to what is happening in the stands. I think it's a fourth official outside who can liaise with the referee and make him attentive to that, because he has a lot to do. I'm a bit more involved in the referee problems, and they have already many responsibilities. And if I was never their friend, I must say I feel sorry for them.
Thank you very much. I had a question over here again. Oh, thank you. That was quick.
One question to Ruud Gullit regarding the European Championship. Your national teams always belong to the very, very best, but they don't win titles. Why is that so? And what does the title, your title, mean to your country?
I think that the fact that we are already there, we are a small country, very, very small, surrounded by big countries like France, Spain, England, and Germany. And I think we do well.
Also Italy.
And also Italy, but not surrounded. Not surrounded. Italy is more south. But we are surrounded by big countries, and we have to do something different in Holland in order to do something, and we do. I think that we are very proud of what we have achieved now. We have been in 3 finals. We lost at 3 finals. We won 1, and I think that is already an achievement on itself. Everybody recognize and also appreciate the Oranges in the way we play, and that you don't always win. Okay, that of course that hurts, but we are proud of what we do. And so this year, in many years we always had a wave of some good results, then bad results, good results, bad results, but we always come. Now we are qualified again for the European Championship. We have players who have experience in Champions League with Wijnaldum and Van Dijk. We had Ajax last year who did really well in the Champions League. So the experience is there again, and our future looks bright again, and hopefully we're going to do it in the European Championship. But there are other big countries who have more experience in the finals than we. Italy, the Germans, the French.
Oh, well,
they
the
have,
Germans.
And so therefore we have to cope with that. But we are very, very happy and proud of what we do.
Can I just say a word
Please.
about that? I think first of all you won in Sweden. Why don't you defend yourself better? and for such a country, they played 3 World Cup finals. You don't get by coincidence in the final. And as well, I think they had huge personalities who influenced the world football, not only the Dutch football, but world football. We have all been inspired, even Fabio, myself, by what Holland did. And I must say they don't get the reward or the recognition they deserve, because they have always, on top of that, played a very offensive game and a very spectacular game. I must say as well, when you look at the World Cup, there's no country under 40 million people who has won the World Cup since Uruguay has won it, And so all the countries, it looks like it's a bit destined to be to the bigger countries.
Also, they played 2 final against the national team that played at home, against Germany, against Argentina. And this is more difficult to win, to beat these teams.
Thank you very much for that.
You're taller now.
We are very happy that we look up to countries like Italy, France, and Germany, who have had a lot of experience. We fight against that as a small nation, but the football that we try to play is always the most difficult one. We want to attack, and sometimes we think that is the only solution. Of course, that isn't. Sometimes it happens. The funny thing is that in '88, I think in the final, we played not the best football that we could, because I think that Russia was better in the final, but we won with 2-0. And sometimes you don't always get what you deserve. I think that if Robben fell like he always does against Spain, it would be a red card and a penalty. It would be a different game. But that is sometimes his football. But we are very proud of what we have achieved.
And you can't forget that the women are doing pretty damn good too. So
women are doing well.
World Cup final, European champions.
European champions.
Just make sure we talk that.
Yeah, and the thing is, and for us, for the ladies, is America is the pinnacle to reach, to go close to that, and like everybody already said, the women's are getting closer and closer. And that's, I think, also better for America, because then they say, hey, we have to do a little bit more.
Yep, thank you. Beautiful question. Also, I would like to redirect to you, Jill. How proud are you of the title for your country?
I mean, of course. I think it was, in 2015, on a personal level, it was almost relief when we won. It had been 16 years. But I think in 2019, and these guys can relate as coaches, that when you have preparation, the feeling was more satisfaction. We'd worked very hard to put a new squad together, to train, to be ready. And so I think that's how we felt internally. But I think, what winning a World Cup is, it's not just about a trophy. It's about the message you send to little boys and girls that want to play in our country. We're still growing the game in our country. And it gives you a massive shot in the arm in terms of a boost to help the profile of your sport. We compete with NFL, NBA. And so for our sport to have a platform, male or female, at the World Cup level, that was also an amazing gift from winning the World Cup.
Thank you. I already had eye contact to the front.
Hi, a question for Mr. Capello. What do you think about the situation in Italian Serie A? Three teams are fighting for the title, and what do you think of the possible change of VAR with the challenge for the coach? Thanks.
The Italian campionato is really interesting now because we have three teams really close. Surprised me the Juventus, that for me is the best team in Italy with the best players. This year, in this moment, you have 10 points less than last year. And this is the problem for the Juventus, because now Inter and Lazio, they are really close. Last year, the distance was really, really big distance. And about the VAR, I think the VAR is really important. And a lot of mistakes of the referee is possible to correct these mistakes. And one thing for me, I think close the VAR, I like to put one ex-player. The ex-player, not the movement that you have to do the players during the contact with the ball, the contact with the opponents. This for the referee is more difficult to understand exactly what happened. I think all players or ex-players, it can help to take the correct decision about every time, every moment.
The challenge.
Non capisco. No. This is crazy. I know the challenge is one, for me, it's in...
To do what?
No, I don't like the challenge for the...
VAR.
No.
No.
Nothing.
No. The challenge, absolutely no.
You know, if you look at
the players that they need to help the VAR referee, for me, will be important. But it's difficult to speak with the referees. It's really compact to refuse this idea.
The most I'm a little bit in the middle of that controversial situation because the most difficult thing that people have contested is that the offside rules, you know. The offside by a margin of a fraction of centimeters, I believe, because the timing is set manually, but that will improve. It will become very quickly automatic. And maybe there is room to change a little bit the offside rule, that you don't say a part of his nose was offside, and you can score with a part of your nose. And maybe is that you're not offside as long as any part of your body you can score with is on line with the defender, and not anymore you're offside if any part of your body is in front of a defender you can score with. That would sort out maybe all these discussions about millimeters of part of your body being in front of a defender. For the rest, it's the first period, and all we have not enough VAR specialists, you know, who can, when you have to do all the games over the weekend, and that will improve very quickly. And I think former referees have to be involved. And the idea of Fabio, I take on board, is maybe a good one as well, experienced players.
I saw when the VAR was, the feet was on the pitch, and the other was this position. I think it's important to decide always the pitches on the field, not high.
Okay. Yeah. But you know, we all agree that VAR is doing well. I think we all want it. The only thing is now sometimes we have a feeling that the referee is doing everything to cancel a goal than to give the goal, and that we want to get rid of that feeling. And I am also agree that you can't have another referee as a VAR, because they also really cocky. Is the one in the VAR going to tell me what to do? So therefore, I think you shouldn't be having a referee in the VAR. You should have some specialist who sits there, and the referee takes his decision, not to take a decision of another referee. And I think that is also important. But the VAR is doing well. It's only applied for 2 years. There were some games there was no VAR, and everybody screams, "Where is the VAR?" So I think the development is good. I think maybe in the future we're going to have artificial intelligence to make an offside ruling immediately. So then at least it doesn't take that long.
Jill, maybe what's your opinion on that topic?
Yeah, I mean, coming out of 2018, I had conversations with FIFA and expressed it, openly that we needed to have it in 2019. I mean, the bottom line is there's too much at stake, and we've all been on the receiving end of a tough loss by an obvious decision that was not made or was made inaccurately. So I think that VAR for us in the World Cup, much like Ruud is saying, it's an evolution, meaning it was problems, there was issues, but I think over time, and I certainly agree with Arsene that. I mean, if you have a ponytail and you're backwards and you're offsides, I mean, can you be offside? It's crazy the level of detail that I think we have to clean it up, but we have to be even more specific. But that's growth. I mean, it's growth in all kinds of rules. It's suddenly now the ball doesn't have to leave the 18, and now as a coach you're like, okay, is our pressing different? So everything has a cause and effect, but I think over time, VAR it's a good thing. It's here to stay. We just need to continue to evolve it.
Thank you. I would like to direct the word over into third row. No? Oh, well. Sorry.
It's a question for Jill. Florent Dabadi from GQ Japan. I don't really agree with Fabio regarding the rules, because I think tennis is also the same for women and men. However, you said, Gillian, that the leagues in the world we are growing, but in Japan we are very struggling right now with the ratings on TV. We are struggling with the fans in the stadium. We are struggling for the next World Cup. We're not sure we can host it. It might go to Australia. Don't you think that the United States, Ruud said at the pinnacle, but you're so strong. I mean, after you took over in 2012, we said that Japan was bringing a technical game, that maybe France would be there. I know that Arsene likes the women's game too, so maybe I can hear his opinion. But in the end, America, since Title IX, has been so strong physically that the athleticism level is too much for all the other teams. Would you mind bringing American coaches in Japan and in France? What's your view to make the game? Because it's a fantastic game, and I loved it in France, but it needs to be better. You're really ahead of everyone else.
Well, certainly, and I was actually at dinner last night, and I was saying, when you legislate change like the US did, meaning you bring in Title IX, and now you have to legislate opportunity, that certainly generates, I mean, I feel, we had a 10-meter head start in a 100-meter race. But this is how I feel, and if you watch the games and the matches we play, and even if you look all the way back to when we won in 91, those top games, they're one and two goal games. They're tight. So I actually think, this is how I see it, there is no gap. There's no gap now between, I feel. I think now what our sport is on a given day, that team has to be better than their opponent. I don't think that there's a gap. I mean, you look at the England game when we played in the World Cup. I mean, that was a game, talk about edge of your seat, right? I mean, there was moments those games could have gone either way. So I think but what I would say is the big picture here is leagues, because even in our country, we only have 9 teams right now. Attendance is okay. It's better in certain cities. But I would say across the board, what we have to encourage, because we get asked this a lot, NBA, WNBA, it's our women's basketball league and our men's basketball league. But we're not investing in the WNBA, so we can't expect the same return or the same fan base. If we invest more equally, or even, percentage-wise, we bring up the investment in our female sports, I think then the viewer ratings go up. The fan attendance goes up. But, our team just played on television, a couple of weeks or so ago, and nobody knew about it. And that, I think, is if we're not showcasing that it's happening and we're not having big corporations getting behind it, then I think we will continue to be unable to generate mass revenue unless it's in a major world event. So I think that's where we have to encourage people to say, look at the World Cup, what an amazing event. With investment, we can have more in our domestic leagues.
Please. You said that tennis, yes, when you have not to jump, the woman.
Well.
Yes, this is the problem. When you have to jump, is to big the goal. For this reason, volleyball, the same, basketball, this is when you have to jump.
At the moment in football, the difference between Europe and the rest of the world, apart from the States, is getting bigger and bigger. And if you look, if you try to analyze why, it's quite simple, because there is no structured football organized at the youth team level in the countries who are behind. And that's what football development has to play a big part, and especially FIFA, that's what we have to work on, is to organize youth team football in mass everywhere in the world, And that's why once you produce good players, the problem will be solved. But as long as you do not organize youth team competitions with good coaches and educate the coaches, you will have that problem. After the mass creates the pressure to create a professional league, but you have first to go to the root of the problem and organize youth team football.
Yeah. In Holland, they in youth teams they let the girls play with the boys, and that is a good development. I know my boy was also playing against a girl, and he had a hard time, and he didn't like it. But that is what you cope with. Girls are tough. Girls are very good, and so that helped them also in their development to play with the boys in the younger teams. Of course, when they're getting older, of course it's going to be a little bit more difficult. But till 14, 15, they play with the boys, and they're doing well.
Thank you. I would like the next question to be in row number 3 here, and then after that, in front.
Oliver Moody, DW. Question for Fabio. Italy obviously failed to qualify for the World Cup last time out. Do you think that disappointment has ultimately helped Italian football have a bit of a reset and will help them then for the future? And just generally, have disappointments helped you all push your careers forward ultimately in the long run?
I think the new national team, Italian national team, is good. We found really good midfielders. The midfielder is the engineer of the team, and they have really, really good player, top level. They are playing PSG, they are playing Chelsea, they are playing Inter Milan, at top level. And we have a really good two keeper. I have some problem in two defenders. But if we recover Chiellini, will be really, really strong. Possibly will be the surprise for the Euros. We will be the surprise. Mancini did a really, really good job, and the new mentality. Good organization, and you want to go forward to play football, not long ball, and everything. But I think it's possible if someone think Italy will be not so good like the last World Cup. You have to you have to fight against Italy. You have to fight.
Thank you. Next question, please, up here.
Hi, question for Jill about the issue of gender inequality. To what, I know you touched on it before, but to what extent does that remain an issue, specifically in terms of the practicality of equal pay? I think there's a court case still ongoing in the US relating to that, and a sort of additional aspect to that question. To what extent can initiatives like International Women's Day, raise the profile and hopefully generate that kind of investment that you referenced?
Yeah, I mean, to start with the latter part of your question, I think, having days is great and shining a spotlight, but I actually think an event like the World Cup that can actually showcase it, I think those things are really important. Right now in the US, our women are engaged in an active lawsuit, and I think they're in mediation and then potentially into a trial, I think, in May. And this is kind of how I've sort of thought about it is it's not just sport. It's in every single aspect that women are making 80 cents on the dollar to the man. It doesn't matter if it's a teacher, a boardroom, a doctor. It just doesn't matter. So I think it's bigger than sport. So I've seen, I was talking to a big wave surfer, and they were fighting for equal pay. And I've seen all these individual groups of women all trying to fight for the same thing. And I think what truly needs to happen is if we all come together, it's an even bigger, more powerful voice. So I think those days, those celebrations of women and putting a spotlight, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to change. So what has to happen? Perhaps it's sometimes, if you're looking at a board, I think it was... I was just talking to a company in the US, and by 2025, they want to have 40% of their board to be female. Sometimes you have to actively make change happen for it to happen. It doesn't happen naturally. So I think trying to get women in positions of leadership, to get more women on boards, more women at administrative levels where they make decisions, even respectfully, like get more women on the committee at FIFA, because we have a different lens. And our lens is our experiences. And I think, if we really want to understand this as a world game and a world issue, we have to appreciate and know everybody else's viewpoint and understand it and appreciate it. So, I have a 14-year-old daughter. My hope is when she's in the business world, if she's got the same experience, same amount of pressure, I'm hoping she's paid exactly the same amount of money as her male counterpart.
Presumably, Arsene, you'd be a supporter of equal pay for women at the top of the game. Do you think it's inevitable and practical?
I'm a huge supporter on paying people on merit, and that means you don't look, are you man or woman? It's just the next challenge for the society for me In sport, it's not difficult. You can say who is good and not good. They cannot cheat. In the rest of the society, activities, it's not as obvious. And maybe the challenge in the future will be to measure the merit of people inside the organizations and not look, are you men or women? Where Jill is right is that they have not at the moment access as easily as men in many organizations. But after that, you want people to be paid on merit.
Thank you. I had another question in the way back, please. In the middle. Can you raise your hand again? Thanks. With the phone in the hand. Thanks. Yep. Perfect.
Bonjour. Une question pour Arsene Wenger. En français, peut-être que vous pouvez me répondre ensuite en anglais. Comme vous le savez, Arsène, beaucoup de Français et fans de foot en France s'intéressent à votre avenir et aimeraient savoir si vous avez un avenir du côté de la Bretagne, si vous avez été contacté par les dirigeants bretons quant à la présidence du Stade Rennais. Merci.
I would say my future is in front of me every time I make a half turn. And for the rest, I just want to share what I've learned and what I want to give back to the game, what I've learned, and as well as efficient I can be. For Rennes, I'm not candidate because I'm working at the moment very hard to develop the game at FIFA, and I focus on that.
Thank you. Next question, please. On the side. Oh, sorry.
Thank you. The question is for Capello, but it's open to the others. Are you surprised by the championship that Lazio is doing in Italy this year? And don't we need a little bit more medium club to win? I don't think like Leicester, that was an amazing story. But it's not boring to find, as you started to say at the beginning, the rich are richer and the gap is getting worse and worse. Is it possible to do something like this? But the first question is, Lazio is a surprise for you.
Lazio is a surprise. Atalanta is a surprise. The president of Atalanta is one ex-player, not the footballer, not the money. He started from the bottom and now is a rich man. For the reason, I think when he chooses the people that are working with him, he's really intelligent and know the value of these people. Lazio, the president is smart and close to him is the best sport director that we have in Italy. This is this made the difference. The people, they understand the football. When I managed AC Milan, always someone arrived and told me, Fabio, this is good, this is good. When the sport director, Ariedo Braida, went to the outside to see the game for the players that they have to buy, if Braida told me, Fabio is good, I said I was sure that it was good. The problem is a lot of people don't understand the football, don't understand the level that you need to buy players to improve. Sometimes you buy players to change. This is the problem. And when you play teams like Arsenal, Liverpool, Man City, AC Milan, Juventus, you have to do something different. The shirt is heavy. This is the problem.
All right, I just
to help the middle class of the teams, I think it's difficult because the really important players prefer to go to important teams. But why do I know we will play the Champions League, we play for the Scudetto or for the Liga. This is why the history is really important for the team.
Thank you very much. I just got a little hint from the side. We only have time for one last question. So I looked at the sir in the red sweatshirt before. No, a little bit in the back, right there. Thank you.
Hello, Jonas Ostermann from TZ Munich. I have a question for Mr. Arsene Wenger. There were some confusions last year regarding you and FC Bayern Munich and phone calls. Can you clarify what happened, and is there any chance that you will join FC Bayern Munich in the future?
I nearly came to Bayern Munich, I don't remember, 95 or 94. And for the rest, no, it was confusion. I was not candidate at all, and I think I put things clear in the statement after that to say it was never at stake for me to go to Bayern Munich this season. And for the rest, to come back on the difference between the teams, if you look at historically, the steps that have been made have progressively separated the potential, because the first step was when we did not share anymore the home games with the visitors. That means when Man United plays at home with 77,000 people, before they pay the expenses and they share 50-50. Once they keep their home gates, it makes a huge difference. With Coventry has 20,000 at home and they have 77,000. And the second thing that we have created is the way we distribute the money on appearances on television. The televisions today, at the international level, you have the home supporters and the international supporters. The international supporters want only to see the best. They're not interested by the rest. So that Dix makes the difference even bigger. So you have the gates plus the television money, plus consequently the sponsorship money, that makes the difference always bigger.
All right, thank you very much. That was our last question. Thank you so much, Ruud, Jill, Arsene, and Fabio. And you can get ready for the red carpet now. We're getting close to that. Thank you all for your questions. As I said, there will be no TV one-to-ones, but you did a great job anyways. Thank you very much.